You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/builtforus to get started.
Okay, so true story, I was scared to try tampons because I didn't know if they'd be able to protect like pads. Took me a few tries, but once inserted properly, tampons shouldn't hurt. If you feel it, it's not in far enough. Believe me, it changed my life. Like pads, tampons offer up to 100% leak-free protection, whether you're on the go or chilling at home. Now, I do and wear whatever I want on my period, thanks to the freedom and flexibility I get with adding Tampax to my routine. Learn more at Tampax.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, Pack_Dadab. Well, for those of you that can see this on YouTube, there's little doubt what I search online. this website, which I can't use ad blocker on because it'll be like, well, then you can't read my article. It's just covered in meat. It is just completely making me very hungry, and it makes me want to... I need to go order more, but, you know, I have a bunch in my freezer I got to get rocking with. I just want to run through some quick news and notes. Obviously, we got to talk about, not yesterday's, because I did miss yesterday. It was very late. But 2 days ago, the Packers game, preseason game, I want to discuss that and some thoughts. We fortunately do have PFF because, you know, again, missed a day, so that'll give us the opportunity to jump straight into that. I do want to touch on a lot of these things, and since the game sucked, I don't want to spend a ton of time dwelling, so let's go over some things. General news and notes, get some nonsense out of the way. Former NFL quarterback Colt McCoy announces retirement, but he's already got a new job lined up. Take a wild guess what that job is. He's going to be announcing for football games. Wow, that's amazing. I've already said I think that whole thing is stupid. I think they need to stop that. Find people that are talented in a field and hire them to do a job, rather than find people who are talented to do something completely different and hire them to do this job. But whatever. Raiders, according to Tom Pelissero, are naming Gardner Minshew their starting quarterback per sources. Coach Antonio Pierce just informed the quarterbacks of his decision after a camp battle between Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Minshew Mania continues in Las Vegas, which opens September 8th versus the Chargers. Happy for Minshew. He's a fun character, that's for sure. Probably not the greatest quarterback in the world, but I'm not a Raiders fan, so I don't have to care. Another thing that I have completely stayed out of because I do not care. The Simone Biles thing was blown out of proportion when it was in Green Bay, but I was glad because, hey, one of the greatest gymnasts of all time is also a Green Bay Packer fan temporarily. Please hold a moment. Sorry about that. My daughter wanted me to look at her new sparkly shoes. So anyways, the Simone Biles thing, I don't really care. But can we please, again, the one thing I don't like is just stupid nonsense. Simone Biles faces backlash for her NFL wardrobe blunder. This is the picture here, which has been nonstop on my feed. Dave, in particular, posted this. Says, with all due respect, Simone Biles got to throw that jacket in the trash ASAP. How did she get in with that? And she's wearing a Packers jacket. I went ahead and looked up the definition of blunder, and it is a stupid or careless mistake. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. I'm just saying. Maybe it's her jacket, and she wanted to wear it. It's in her wardrobe. Maybe she doesn't play for the Bears. Maybe when she was in Green Bay, she got a bunch of sweet swag, you know? And she likes a lot of that stuff. And she didn't really think about it and just walked out the door because who cares? Now, she's probably going to be thinking about it moving forward, but she's probably not going to throw that in the garbage. which you should be happy about, because guess what? Her husband is not very good at football and is not going to be with the Bears forever. And you had better hope that if at some point she ends up getting any Bears gear, which I would assume she will at some point to support her husband, she doesn't throw it in the garbage and light it on fire when she leaves. But it's just so stupid. NFL wardrobe blunder. What blunder? You're assuming it's a blunder because you're assuming that she gives a crap. Oh, my Lord. All right. Then, why don't we do this first before we get into the NFC North? So we talked about this before. There were some rumblings about possibly opening up NFL ownership, partial ownership to equity firms. So entities that invest in companies will be able to invest in NFL teams. This already exists for other things. I believe pretty much all of them. MLB. I know the Bucks, basketball, the Bucks do. More on that in a minute. But they're discussing, Jimmy Haslam, I guess, is going to present at some owners meeting, and there's some other owners who have been working on this, and they're going to present their findings and all this stuff. But we don't have all the details, but there are some more details, so I wanted to mention it. First of all, I believe the last time we talked about this, we had talked about that there was a potential to open up a 10% stake in a team. I was not a fan of it. Apparently now the newest talks are 10% is the maximum ownership of a single entity, could be up to 30% total. So there's that. Couple other things here. So I just want to go through a couple bullet points. Private equity interest. NFL is exploring allowing private equity or institutional capital into team ownership to make the ownership market more liquid and push valuations higher. Now it's funny because one of the things that keeps coming up here is sort of this this poor me thing of like, well, we're becoming so valuable that nobody wants to buy our teams anymore. And I was like, well, I don't really understand. First of all, who's trying to sell their team that this is becoming a big problem? I don't see where that's an issue. Because here's the other thing. You don't have to have single ownership to begin with. There are already teams that are owned by multiple people. In fact, the only requirement, I believe, right now is that the principal owner, like the main owner, the guy that's seen as the owner, only has to own 30%. On top of that, you don't have to put cash down. We'll get into that in a minute. So I don't necessarily buy it. The fact that, well, you know, we're becoming so valuable that we just can't we can't do anything if we try to sell our teams because there aren't enough people that want to buy it. I'm not buying that. I'm just not. And so you can see here, we'll go through multiple things where I think this is a lot of BS, and it's about people trying to make some maneuvers here. One of them is more liquid cash, so getting a cash infusion, which I think is probably part of it, but maybe not most of it. Because even that, last time we talked, didn't make sense. Who in their right mind would sell off now 30% of their team just so you can what? Do some renovations? And then you lose 30% of your revenue to this other, like it's a net loss proposition. That's why these other people are investing, because they're going to make more money than they lose. So that didn't make sense. Well, here's one. Push valuations higher. As soon as they push that button, the value of these teams, as these infusions of cash come in, goes through the roof. Okay. By the way, it also talks about institutional capital. So private equity is one of the things they're talking about, which is, you know, these firms that can come in and invest. They're also talking about institutional capital, which could include things like, oh, I don't know, your 401k. You know, there are funds like that will be allowed to buy into NFL teams. So you might actually be invested in NFL teams over these next few years. We'll see. Specific details such as type of funds allowed and ownership percentage are still under discussion with a range of outcomes possible. Institutional capital says the conversation is broader than just private equity, with other forms of institutional capital showing interest in the NFL. They're even possibly talking it up to wealth fund, what is it, WFM or whatever. I doubt that's going to be a thing, but that would be interesting. That's basically like government-owned things or state-owned. The NFL may raise the acquisition debt limit, lower equity requirements for principal owners, or increase the cap on investors. So this is kind of what I mentioned before. So raise the acquisition debt limit. Again, nobody puts down I shouldn't say nobody, but generally, and this is just the way, even if they have the money, people that have billions of dollars, even if their stake in a team is $100 million, they're not going to put $100 million in. They're going to use the bank's money to buy their stake, and then they're going to get a higher return than the interest rate, and they're just going to let that play out. So all that's doing is, by raising the debt limit, you can use more debt or more of the bank's money as opposed to your own money. Obviously, if you're an investor, that's something you want to do. Let's see, lower equity requirements. So right now, you have to have a minimum stake. Well, if we want to get more people involved, you lower that minimum entry point, because they're opening up the pool to more people so that they can open up the pool to more money. And increase the cap on investors. That's pretty self-explanatory. Committee deliberation special owners meeting include owners like Clark Hunt and Arthur Blank will present findings at the March meetings with possible votes in May or later. Right now, there is no strong opposition. While there's little opposition to institutional involvement, the extent or acceptance of implementation remains undecided. All right, and then there was a second one here. Some of the points were shrinking buyer pool, raising team valuations. We already talked about that a little bit, but again, that's the main selling point that I'm not necessarily buying. Cash infusion, limited decision power. So private equity investments would likely be passive without decision-making power, similar to structures of other sports leagues. Now, I would be interested in looking into that because I don't know much about that, but that's my biggest fear. Not necessarily as a Packer fan, we'll get to that. But, I mean, if these people have a stake in the team, they obviously are going to have some level of pull, and they're going to have some things that are more beneficial to them than others. Why would they not push? I'm not saying they have decision making. In other words, they can't unilaterally decide anything. I understand that. That doesn't mean they can't push. That doesn't mean they don't have influence. So I would be interested in learning a little bit more about that. Not that I have any influence in this decision. I just like knowing what the heck is going on. Private equity seeks returns on investment, viewing NFL teams as profitable and prestigious assets. Obviously, NFL is considering how the structure of these investments, looking at models from other leagues. Again, this is pretty common around the NFL. Possible complications, decisions on cross-ownership, passive investment, and exit strategies need to be finalized, and any new rules will require vetting of potential investors. The cross-ownership thing I find very interesting because here's the deal. Couple things. The guy that is introducing this is Haslam, who owns the Browns. Haslam owns also, or has the, I believe, majority share in the Milwaukee Bucks. He has I believe it's called the Haslam Group, which is a private equity firm that invests in things, including sports teams. There is a MLB team, whatever. It might even be in the notes here. We'll go there in a second. So, again, I don't know how much of this is Haslam going, oh, but what if I want to sell this and I can't because there's nothing here, as opposed to him saying, bro, what if I had a plan that made us all super rich and made the value of our teams go through the roof, and we can invest in each other's teams? That's where the whole cross-ownership thing comes in, because obviously there's a conflict of interest. But as soon as this happens, he would be allowed to invest in the Miami Dolphins or some other teams. Here's some other owners, by the way, that are involved in these things. Stan Kroenke of the LA Rams owns Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. He has ownership stakes in the Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche, Colorado Rapids, Arsenal FC, Colorado Mammoth, and the LA Gladiators, also involved in real estate. Jerry Jones has the Jones Family Holdings. Robert Kraft has the Kraft Group. Arthur Blank has AMB Group, which includes Home Depot. Jimmy Haslam has Haslam Sports Group, which has, again, Cleveland Browns, Columbus Crew, and Milwaukee Bucks. Paul Allen, who's passed away, but Seattle Seahawks, Vulcan Inc., Portland Trailblazers, Seattle Sound, Terry Pagula. I knew that one when he got in there, and that was my immediate thought, was how this is not a main priority, but this is more common than I was aware of. Buffalo Sabres, Rochester Americans, and Buffalo Bandits. And then Shahid Khan has Fulham FC, All Elite Wrestling, Flexing. So a lot of these guys, they have a lot of businesses, and then they have these umbrella companies that invest and buy different businesses. This opens up and allows people to come in and invest. Now, maybe if they don't allow cross-ownership, they will not be able to buy into any NFL teams. I'm assuming that is rule number one that they're going to pass. But still, I mean, it just feels like these are people who are in this business who are trying to open up business to their businesses. And who's to say that there isn't some intermingling, right? Maybe I'm not a owner of this group, but I'm a part of that group. What if I'm a 10% owner in a firm that wants to invest in the Buffalo Bills? I mean, are you saying I can't just because I'm a little bit of an owner? I don't know. The whole thing seems a little weird. Here's the best news, though, for those of you that are Packer fans as I am. This really shouldn't have anything to do with the Green Bay Packers. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers don't even get a seat at the table for this. Actually, they probably should be able to because it still includes the NFL. But the Green Bay Packers, even if they were allowed to participate in this, which doesn't make a lot of sense, remember the Green Bay Packers are a non-profit organization. These are profit-seeking entities looking to invest in profitable businesses. They're not going to invest in a non-profit, even if there's not legalities preventing it, which there might be, I don't know. But any profits that you get as a non-profit need to be invested back into the team. So that would just be a donation if a team invested or a entity invested. So very interesting thing. It's interesting to me. Maybe nobody else cares. But there's some potential big changes coming to the NFL. I mean, look, if overall this just means the value of these teams and everything else goes up, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if it ruins these other teams. And every time more money gets infused into the NFL, it just means the salary caps go higher, which ends up being a benefit to the NFL in general and for all of us. So whatever, you guys figure it out. But again, it's one of those things that seems massive that I don't hear anybody talking about. How much time we in here? Let's take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about a little bit of the Vikings and some Chicago Bears news, and then we'll fly through the PFF details. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
School is back, and Dick's Sporting Goods has what you need to win your year. We've got everything from cleats to Sambas, dunks, and more. Plus, the hottest looks from Nike, Jordan, and Adidas. Find your first day fits in-store or online at Dicks.com.
It's the most magical time of the year, and I'm not talking about Christmas. I'm talking about the NFL season. So make sure you're ready with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Get the most live NFL games all in one place. Right now, you can save $85 when you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube TV. Sign up today at youtubetv.com/Spotify. Device and content restrictions apply. Discount applied to first 4 months of YouTube TV, then $72.99 a month. Ends August 29th. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. No refunds.
Hi, and welcome to IKEA. How can I help?
Oh, my schedule is crazy. I just want some me time.
Maybe it's time to embrace the joy of staying in. With comfortable beds, pillow and decor, mood lighting, and so much more, you can turn your bedroom into the place to be.
Oh, sounds like a dream.
We've got you. Visit us in-store or at IKEA-USA.com/sleep to create your dream bedroom today.
Listen closely. As a master painter carefully brushes Benjamin Moore Regal Select down the seam of the wall. It's like poetry in motion. Benjamin Moore, see the love.
All right, Minnesota Vikings. Now, I talked about this a little bit with Aaron Jones. Let me just be very clear on my thoughts on this. This is an article from MinnesotaSportsFan.com. Does Stephon Gilmore fix the Minnesota Vikings cornerback issues? I'm going to try not to just laugh on the outset. Does Stephon Gilmore fix... There's so many holes in that statement. Number one, we'd have to ask, does Stephon Gilmore fix anything? Number two, are we even acknowledging how severe the cornerback issue is? It's like saying, does duct tape fix my skin cancer? Like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Let me allow this other article here from Vikings.com, actually. 5 things to know about Vikings new cornerback Stephon Gilmore. Let me allow Lindsey Young, writer and editor, to answer this question for us. It's interesting because as much as this is a positive thing, I think a lot of, when you read between the lines, you start to understand how I feel about the situation. And listen, trying to be fair, Vikings fans, I'll say when things are good, I'll say when things are bad. This is stupid. This is really stupid. Okay? We'll get there. 5 things to know about Vikings' new cornerback, Stephon Gilmore. Ready? Where's number 1? Familiarity with Flores and Pettin. Let's see. Mike Pettin and Gilmore overlapped in 2013. Then in 2017 and 19, he was in New England with Flores. Defensive Player of the Year, 2019. Okay. AFC Championship star, 2017. Super Bowl champion, 2018. Bro, it's 2024. This guy hasn't been relevant since 2019. It's 2024. Why do we keep thinking that these guys are better than they are? Stephon Gilmore is what, 33, 34 years old? He is on a 1-year contract. Why? The season is over. The season is over, and you're dropping, what, $10 million on a 34-year-old cornerback on a 1-year deal in a year that your season is over? It's done? There's talks now about will the Vikings get the number 1 overall pick, and you go out and get Stephon Gilmore? Why? And I posted this on social media, and I had our resident Vikings fan pop over and say, just so you know, teams don't just throw in the towel on the season. And my general retort to that is, number 1, I mean, okay, maybe. Maybe. Would it have been throwing in the towel if you didn't get Stephon Gilmore? Because if that's the case, you have a lot more acquisitions to make. Otherwise, you're still throwing in the towel. You need a quarterback, for one. There's... Anyways, beyond that, though, there's a very obvious problem. And Aaron Jones falls into this, too. At best, and I would be shocked if this was the case, but at best, by 2025... you're a competent football team. J.J. McCarthy is back. He's healthy. Bing, bang, boom. Things are flying. You got your wide receivers. You got your offensive line, which has improved at least at the tackle position. Flores, hopefully, maybe, we'll get to that in a minute, is making some improvements and whatnot for our defense. And we're rocking and rolling. Aaron Jones and Stephon Gilmore won't be there for it. By the way, salary cap space rolls over, so it's not like use it or lose it. If you don't spend it, you can spend it next year. So don't spend it and save it for next year. But no, we're going to spend it and waste it on this year. But okay, we don't want to give up on this season. Fine. Here's another thought. Maybe instead of Aaron Jones, you could have gone out and got a guy like, Josh Jacobs, like the Packers did. Because Josh Jacobs would be a way to not give up on this year, but also give you options into the future. Xavier McKinney, like the Packers got, who I believe is 24 years old and was one of the best, if not the best, safeties in football last year. He's not just a this-year investment, he's a long-term investment. Why would you not do that? His response, well, it was a day one decision. Bro, this has been your situation since day one. You are not a 2024 team. You've never, at no point were you a 2024 team. You are always a team of the future. If you're going to get free agents, go get long-term free agents. Aaron Jones and Stephon Gilmore are stupid signings from a GM who has made unbelievably questionable decisions up to this point. I hate to come down hard on the data guy as somebody who thinks more in the data arena than the film arena. He hasn't done a good job. He just has not. And I don't even think Vikings fans argue with that. I think everybody agrees that your head coach seems to be a pretty good play caller and whatnot, seems to be doing fine. Flores has a lot of optimism. I don't necessarily share that, but I understand it. But the GM has made some questionable decisions, and I don't know how you justify a one-year deal for a running back and a cornerback in a year in which nothing matters. So, can we go back here for a second and talk about how stupid this is? Does Stephon Gilmore fix the Minnesota Vikings cornerback issues? No. No, he doesn't play three positions, and even if he did, you would not have your issues solved. I mean, maybe you could say it's good enough at that point. He is not a Pro Bowler. He's not playing up to an all-pro level like he used to. That was 2019. He's mid at best right now. Maybe you can get a good year out of him. And by good, I'm talking like PFF giving him like a 70, right? Maybe that's what you can get out of him. You can squeeze that out of him. Maybe. Doesn't usually go that way as you get older. He is not in the 90s like he was in 2019. Terrible decision by the Minnesota Vikings. Let me just make sure I got that. Hopefully this is working here. I want to play this. This is something else. Hold on. Here is Tua Tagovailoa goes off on his former head coach Brian Flores. Here is your defensive coordinator, by the way, who's been embroiled in quite a few scandals. He's made a lot of enemies over his years. And then in that time, it was how dare they not hire this guy? He's a super genius, which I think is the whole thing. Is he's supposedly a super genius? Which, by the way, here's the problem with super geniuses: they never stay super geniuses. The NFL evolves, and then the super geniuses go into the bin. He was a quote unquote super genius kind of a long time ago, and for a brief period of time. And here is what the former quarterback of that team, when he was a head coach, had to say about him.
Can you explain to us the difference in practical terms between having a coach who did believe in you the way that he did and the difference between that and what was happening with Flores?
Yeah. Well, to put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right. And then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been 2 years of training that out of not just me, but a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
We all had the same reaction to that, was to notice how awkward and uncomfortable Chris Cody was in his short shorts on the middle of that couch sitting next to Tua.
Who picked the middle for me?
Who picked shorts?
You did. You picked the middle.
Anyways, I don't need to hear about that, and I didn't notice, fortunately, that I didn't notice that. Look, Vikings fans, I hate to pile on here because things are brutal for you and your fan base right now, and I think you acknowledge that. This sucks. I mean, I don't care. Listen, you're a team that just had Zimmer as your head coach. Everybody said Zimmer was a great defensive mind, but he was a jagoff that treated his players like crap. Tua Tagovailoa is saying in no uncertain terms that he was told by his head coach Flores that he doesn't belong there, that he's no good. That's his leadership style? That's your DC. How long do you think that's going to go? By the way, this is year 2. So guys are already starting, I'm assuming if he's the same guy, starting to develop a distaste for him. So we're talking about maybe 2025, you guys get your things together. How's the defense holding up at that point by year 3? As this guy's beating down their what do you call it? Self-esteem. I don't even know what it's called. I have so little. I'm just saying, maybe he's a new man now. Maybe he went off and, after he spent all his time suing everybody for discrimination and everything, maybe he's a new man now, and he's like, you know what, I made some mistakes, and I'm going to be a friendlier, kinder type of guy. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case, but we will see, and I certainly will be paying attention. All right, final thing. Chicago Bears reportedly in talks with top NFL free agent after striking out on a big deal. So this one I saw, and I was like, oh no. Because there was this report which is also hilarious. Chicago Bears lined up a trade for edge rusher Matthew Judon before the New England Patriots traded him to the Atlanta Falcons. With Judon off the board and Chicago still in need of a pass rusher to help, the Chicago Bears are being tied to a new option in NFL rumors. So it is funny. This is from sportsnot.com. I don't know if Matt Johnson is a Bears guy or not, but he left out a couple details there that aren't super flattering for the Chicago Bears and Chicago Bears fans, who, of course, generationally believe that this is the greatest place to be. Everybody wants to be in Chicago. It's such a wonderful city. And now that we have Caleb, everybody knows we're going to win. They said this about Justin Fields too. Like, everybody would rather be here with Fields, like, because they see the future, they see the truth, they understand all these things. The reality is, New England had a trade in place with the Bears and the Falcons. It was done. And they went to Judon and they said, look, we got deals that we can accept from both of them. And they were kind of cool about it. They're like, we're just going to let you pick, because we're happy to accept. I'm sure one of them was heavier than the others, and maybe they were equal. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Goes to Judon, says, it's up to you, bro. You get to pick either place, because we're happy with either deal. He picked Atlanta. Atlanta. Maybe he would just rather live in Atlanta. I don't know. But that's kind of crazy. Because, I mean, I don't know. I think Bears fans would... If I came out and said Atlanta is a better place to be, who has better aspirations as far as playoffs and Super Bowl, I think Chicago Bears fans would take exception to that. Although I think you could certainly make a case for Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, who's an established quarterback, as well as all the weapons that they have around him and whatnot. But that defense is rough. But here's that's not even the funniest part of the article. Oh my goodness! Take a wild freaking guess. What? How is this phrased again? In talks with top NFL free agent, right? Now they're being tied to a new option in NFL rumors. Take a wild guess. I'll give you a hint. It's the same frickin' guy that you hear every single time. I don't know why this guy won't go away. Take a wild guess. Where is he? Here's the defense, which did really well. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Yannick Ngakoue. Suspected spam. Suck a duck. Yannick freaking Ngakoue. Oh, we have a history, me and Yannick. This actually started with the Minnesota Vikings. This is before I went on my, I think, anti-Chicago Bears thing, because I think it was before Fields. Let me pull this up here real quick. Yannick Ngakoue went to Minnesota in 2020, so it was before Fields. So I was a little bit heavier into the Vikings at that time. And he went from Jacksonville to Minnesota, and I was told, man, well, you can't even see that. Okay, well, that's fine. You can stare at that. I'll look at PFF. I was going to pull this up for you, but whatever. He went to Minnesota in 2020. He went, supposedly in Jacksonville, he was this elite pass rusher, right? And they're pulling up all these stats, and the stats didn't really make sense. Like, they were so random. It was like, if you look between these dates and cross your eyes and then pick these weeks, and all, it's like, why are you doing that? And of course, you look at it and you realize 2017, he had this elite year, and that was basically it. He got traded in 2020. So I went on an absolute tirade. And of course, similar to Bears fans yesterday or 2 days ago talking about, oh, you're all mad and all that because you're scared. Bro, I'm not scared. I just hate stupid, all right? I get upset with stupid. This was stupid, and Vikings fans hated it. Oh, no, he's elite, bro. You're going to find out. You're about to find out. He's elite. So what happened? Well, 2020, he went to Minnesota. He played 6 weeks, ended with a 45 run defense grade, had 16 pressures on 192 attempts and 4 sacks, which is less than 10%, which is garbage. And then he got traded to Baltimore. And that was it. Here's not even the funniest part. This blockbuster trade that Chicago's looking at for a new free agent, do you remember where he was last year? He was in Chicago. So he had a 1-year deal from Chicago. He was garbage. 39 PFF grade, 37 run defense grade, 28 tackling grade, 47 pass rush grade, literally one of the worst edge rushers in the entire NFL. But in 2017, he had 1 good year, so everybody hears Yannick Ngakoue, and they still kind of go, I don't know, he might be kind of good. It's the same with Stephon Gilmore. It was that 6 years ago now when he was good? And we still have people thinking, oh, yeah, Stephon Gilmore, dude, he's really good. Bro, you gotta update every year. We got to start updating a little bit better. With the Chicago Bears, he had an 8.3% pressure rate, 34 pressures, and 4 sacks on 408 attempts. He was horrifically bad. And I got to sit here and look at these articles about, they missed out on Judon, who's really good, but just wait, they're now in talks with one of the top NFL free agents. To be fair, he probably is, because there's nobody available right now. But Yannick Ngakoue is garbage, dude. He's horrible. You'd be better off just going out with one guy. Just don't put anybody out there. He is a liability. Just go with 10 guys. The dumbest crap ever. Anyways, let's take our final break. We will come back, and I will see if I can change the settings on this thing that I got here. We'll look at some PFF grades and whatnot. We'll be right back.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Dealing with mental health can be hard. All the influencers' posts, articles, podcasts, tips about what to do, what not to do, silence retreats, yoga retreats. My friends tell me to take some me time. My mom says I need a boyfriend. Therapy? Impossible without insurance. Even with, it's expensive.
United Healthcare can help make getting mental health care easier. With Mental Health Complete Plus, provided by Teladoc Health. Unlimited virtual sessions, only $59.99 a month. Visit mentalhealthcomplete.com to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Etsy. The robots have gotten pretty good at what they do, but they can't pour passion into what they make or give an item a human touch. On Etsy, you can find something handmade, handpicked, or designed by independent sellers who bring their whole hearts to their small shops. Shops that prove you can bring more joy to the lives of others when you do what you love. The fingerprints Etsy sellers leave behind reveal who they are. Human beings, determined to make human connections. So the next time you're shopping for yourself or someone special, choose extraordinary items handmade, handpicked, or designed by small businesses. Keep commerce human. Discover small businesses on Etsy.
In this ad for the Mobile One brand, I have 30 seconds to talk to you about free time. No, free time, not available time. That isn't your time. That belongs to your phone, work, and a string of notifications that follow you everywhere. Free time is an open road. Your hands on the wheel, new sights to see, new wonders to wander. So this is your reminder to log off and go. Because ironically, your most valuable time is free. Mobile One, for the love of driving. Visit loveofdriving.us/radio to learn more.
All right, so I got to do it. Spend 2 seconds on the Chicago Bears. I went on a big rant about Caleb and everything else, and everybody got all up in a tizzy. Here is their recap, real quick. An uneventful first half for Caleb Williams quickly became anything but on the rookie's final drive in the second quarter. He hit first-year player Roma Dunze on the run for 45-yard gain, and then made a spectacular effort play to nearly find Odunze in the end zone, all before capping the drive with a Madden-esque touchdown scramble. That is a word salad of nonsense to describe nobody was open and he ran for a touchdown untouched. Elite doesn't do the drive justice, with Williams notching 2 big-time throws on the series. Okay. Let's do this real quick. I must have closed it on accident. Let's go ahead and find it. All right. We are in, we in 3 now? No, it's this one. Passing grades for Caleb Williams. Second week in a row, I believe he was the lowest graded passer on his team. He had a 60.9 passing grade. This is just another example of guys like Ben Cooper, the writers, the social media guys, having a complete disconnect from the reality of what built their company, which is their grading system and the advanced statistics. I mean, this is a guy, I don't know, can we get any details on Ben? Is he a Bears fan by chance, or just a general hype guy? Editorial content, bachelor's art, journalism, cool. Great. Useless degree there. Sorry, they just end up being the most useless people. So I assume that it's a useless degree taught by useless people. This is a longer discussion for another time, but there is an article right now talking about how PFF is imploding. And it's imploding because it's being run by a bunch of idiots, and those idiots are making decisions, which is why you're seeing everybody from PFF leaving. They're all leaving. They're going to other places. They're leaving partially because the people that are there are terrible people that are in leadership and whatnot, but also because they're leaning into this and are getting away from this. So the commentary that says Caleb Williams was elite, as opposed to the grading system and their statistics, which again built their entire everything, which says he was not great. 60.9. So if we look real quick, as I continue, just finish up talking my trash here. Quarterbacks in the preseason. Highest passing grades. Where does Caleb Williams rank? Caleb. There he is, 45th. 45th. Go away out of how many? 45th out of 102. So he's average. But just so we're clear, because Bears fans are convinced he's the second coming of Pat Mahomes, this is Pat Mahomes. If you recall, Pat Mahomes, and this was even a knock against Jordan Love, doesn't mean Caleb isn't going to be good, but stop calling him Pat Mahomes. Jordan Love, Walgreens, leave me alone, got ripped by Colin Cowherd because you just knew Pat Mahomes, when he got in there, everybody's talking about how elite he was, how great he was. You don't hear that with Jordan Love. You know who else you don't hear that about? The quarterback that is average right now and grading in the 60s. All right, it's enough of that. He got graded out bad 2 weeks in a row. Actually, real quick, I just want to look at his full stat sheet here. Here's Caleb Williams. So he does have a 70.3 PFF grade overall, based on what I don't exactly know. It's not passing. He has a good way to not fumble grade, but he is. Where are we at here? 10 of 20, 170 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 65.7 passing grade, 13% big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 79.2 NFL passer rating. Cool. All right. Let's get to the Packer game. We'll start off with the passing and whatnot. As you can see, if you're watching, horrible game. In fact, let's just go back here to the original. And like I said, we're going to fly through this because I don't like covering bad things for a long time. One of the worst grades I've ever seen for an offense, especially an offense that had 25 people playing. 0 players graded in the 70s. 0. Highest graded player was Luke Tenuta with a 69.6. We could certainly round up, but I don't feel like it. Only 11 players graded at 60 or higher out of 25, which leaves us with 14 that were below a 60 and 5 that were below a 50, including 3 that were below a 40. Stop calling me, I'm busy. Some general specifics here. Highest graded, Malik Heath and Luke Tenuta, 69.3 and 69.6. Please hold. All right, pardon the second interruption. Kind of forgot where we left off there, but Malik Heath at the top. A whole bunch of average. Let's go through the negatives here. We'll go through the specifics in a minute, but 50s and below, starting with the highest to the lowest. Andre Dillard, Emmanuel Wilson, Jalen Wayne, Ellis Merriweather, Julian Hicks, Dimitri Stanley, Royce Newman, Jacob Monk, Michael Pratt. In the 40s, you have tight end Joel Wilson, and you have running back Nate McCrary. Not hard to figure that one out. Then in the 30s, Grant DeBose, Sean Clifford, and Tyler Davis. Not any name that you'd like to see down there. I think a lot of us have become disillusioned with Sean Clifford a little bit, but you don't expect that bad of a performance. Grant DeBose was on the top of the mountain. That's a hard fall for him. And Tyler Davis, I don't know if he's ever necessarily been a fan favorite, but the team certainly likes him. That's a rough outing. And none of them had super limited opportunities. Tyler Davis only 13, but still, 37 run blocking grade in your 10 snaps. Almost all you did was run blocking, and you were awful at it. That's not great. All right, let's run through some of the specifics here. Go over to the passing. Michael Pratt had a 53 54 passing grade. Sean Clifford, 39 passing grade. Looking at some of the advanced statistics here. 0 big-time throw for either of them. They each had 1 turnover-worthy play. One of them actually did get turned over for Sean Clifford. That also represents a higher percentage because there were less attempts by Clifford, surprisingly. Average depth of target, Sean Clifford was 10.9. Pratt just 5.3. A lot of dink and dunk for Pratt. Adjusting completion percentage is higher for Pratt at 73 compared to 70. Time to throw. Pratt, obviously, shorter passes came out faster, 259 compared to 290. NFL passer rating, 67.7 for Pratt, 30.4 for Sean Clifford. Heading over to the receivers. Looking at receiving grades. Highest, Nate McCrary at 69. Then it's Malik Heath, then Ben Sims, Samori Toure, Ellis Merriweather, Bo Melton. Down into the 50s, Emmanuel Wilson, Jalen Wayne, Dimitri Stanley, Joel Wilson with a 49, Grant DeBoe's 38 passing grade. I'm not repeating the grades. By the way, these are different grades, or receiving, not overall grades. We didn't really go over any general statistics because we missed yesterday, but nobody really stood out. Malik Heath was our top receiver. He had the most receptions with 3, the most yards with 22. I know it's preseason, so it gets spread out a lot more, but that's not fantastic. Highest passer rating when targeted, 2 over 100. Samori Toure, 102.1. Ben Sims, 108.3. Moving over to the rushing, which was a severe problem in this game. Obviously, PFF didn't just put it all on the offensive line, although that obviously wasn't great. But the highest rushing grade comes from quarterback Michael Pratt, which is never a good thing. Ellis Merriweather, who I thought actually was pretty decent. I was at one run in particular we all probably remember where he just smoked a guy. Actually went out of the game, I believe. But he had a 58 grade, which is 2.3 yards per attempt. So averaging it out was pretty rough. Emmanuel Wilson had a 55 grade, 3.2 yards per attempt. Sean Clifford had a 50 rushing grade, despite an 11 yards per attempt with 1 carry for 11 yards. And Nate McCrary was at the bottom. We just picked up Nate McCrary. I have a feeling he's not long for this team. 3 carries, 3.7 yards, and a fumble, 40.1 rushing grade, and obviously very bad fumble grade here. Getting over to the blocking, so round out the offense here. On the left tackle side, Andre Dillard and Caleb Jones actually did really, really well. They didn't grade out well overall because, again, PFF for some reason really seems to weight run blocking quite high. Andre Dillard had a 46 grade and a run blocking and an 84 pass blocking grade. I mean, considering, I guess that kind of averages out. I know that's not how they do the math, but it kind of averages out. But still, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't give a crap. I mean, an 84 pass blocking grade is actually quite good. We'll get into more of the over the 2 weeks things, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, Dillard has been elite so far. And to be fair, he has been in the preseason forever. His preseason pass blocking grades are incredible. But 88.3 and 84.3 over the 2 weeks with a 90.1 pass blocking grade. He's not losing the job right now, that's for sure. Not that he has one, but as far as being a legit swing tackle option, he's in there. Caleb Jones also performed really well. 83 pass blocking grade, 55 run blocking, so not quite as high pass blocking, but quite a bit higher in run blocking. And then the guy that was out there the most, Kadeem Telford, had a pretty rough outing. He did last week too. They gave him the most opportunities again. The Packers seem to really want to ride that horse. They do that all the time. There's always this guy that never grades out very well. The Packers always really lean into him. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's just that they have a really firm understanding of the offense and the coaches just obsess over it. But he's just not been good at all. He gave up 2 hurries, 2 total pressures. Both of them were hurries in this game. He's one of 3 that gave up 2 pressures. In the left guard spot, we also had 3 guys. Lecitus Smith actually did pretty well, actually the best of all the left guards. 75 pass blocking grade, 57 run blocking, so average run blocking, pretty good pass blocking. Jacob Monk was a 70 pass blocking, 50 run blocking. Royce Newman, 72 pass blocking, 50 run blocking. I feel like everybody had pretty much the exact same grades. Just across the board. Good pass. I mean, it's typical Packers. Really good pass blocking, terrible run blocking. It's pretty standard. You know, it's funny, too, because people are like, oh, why aren't you worried about the offensive line? The run blocking is terrible. This has been every season that I've been covering the Packers ever. We don't have good run blockers. It doesn't happen. At center, Jacob Monk took 13 snaps there. He actually played all 3 interior spots. Most of it was at left guard, then center, then right guard. But at center, I'm not going to go over his grades again, same grades. Lasita Smith, same thing. He played left guard and center, and Sean Ryan only played center, which is really, really interesting. He, as far as I know, was never considered a center until this year, and now he's only taking center snaps. Sounds to me like they're 100% really leaning into that. I'm guessing because they don't like their other center options, including Monk and Smith. Potentially, I don't know, but this seems like a desperation thing to just say you are going to really learn this. He got the most opportunities at center, maybe the second most snaps of anybody at any position outside of Travis Glover at right tackle. So that's quite telling. And he had a 70 pass blocking grade and a 58 run blocking grade, which really is not terrible. I mean, honestly, if those are regular season numbers, I'm not really mad at it. Everyone's going to be annoyed by this. It's just how it goes. And it's not even just the Packers. I mean, that's most teams are just not as good at run blocking. Right guard, again, Jacob Monk, 11 snaps. Luke Tenuta took 17 snaps only at right guard. He had an 81 pass blocking grade, 65 run blocking, probably our best run blocker of the day. Speaks to why he was one of the highest graded players and, just the only guy that really was able to do anything, and it really wasn't that good. And then Royce Newman, who we already talked about, he took most of his snaps at right guard. He took a ton of snaps. I mean, 31 at right guard and 28 at left guard. He pretty much just didn't leave the field. If you look at total blocking snaps, yeah, he was number 1. But we already covered his grade. Then we have right tackle. Kadeem Telford, we already talked about over at left tackle, but at Travis Glover, 48 snaps purely at right tackle, 71 pass blocking, 57.9 run blocking. I mean, that's like everybody. That's Tenuta, Caleb Jones, Travis Glover, Lasita Smith, Sean Ryan, Andre Dillard, Emmanuel Wilson, Royce Newman, Jacob Monk. Everybody graded out essentially that way. Even some of the non-offensive linemen graded out that way. Emmanuel Wilson had an 80 pass blocking grade, 60 run blocking, mostly because they don't do a lot of run blocking, but just pretty much everybody. The other grades that might be of some interest, Ben Sims, the tight end, had a 35 pass blocking grade, which is obviously terrible. Ellis Merriweather, who's trying to get a job as a halfback, he only had 1 attempt, but they gave him a 5 pass blocking grade, which is pretty rough. I mean, just across the board on run blocking, though, I mean, the span is not that wide. Tyler Davis was terrible in run blocking, which we already covered. Andre Dillard was also below a 50, but high 40s, but the range is basically 50 to 65. I mean, it's a very narrow range of not great to average as far as run blocking goes. Nobody's good at it right now. Hopefully we have some starters that can actually do it. But let's get over to defense real quick. Since we already took our 2 breaks, we'll fly through this as fast as we can here. Much better results on defense, although not perfect. Start with the negative first. Below a 60, Tyron Hopper, which probably surprises some people, but they did grade him out well on run defense. We'll get there. Eric Wilson, James Esther, Kitano Ladapo, Spencer Wagee, Lucas Van Ness, and Christian Young. Kalen King and Zach Morton were in the 40s, which I'm sad about King, but I understand it. Raylan Goforth, 33. LJ Davis, 28. I mean, this guy just stays at the bottom, LJ Davis. I don't understand how he even made it this long. He had a 29 grade last week, a 28 grade this week. I mean, that's as brutal as you can get. On the positive side, going a strict 70 line, although I tell you what, I want Evan Williams in here. With a 69.1, Evan Williams. Then you had Jermon Green, Corey Ballantyne, Aaron Mosby, Jonathan Ford, Colby Wooden, and Christian Welch, all in the 70s. And then Chris Russell Jr. with an 80.4 and Benny Sapp with an 85.9. Kind of important for Benny Sapp. He's been kind of a hanger-on for a long time. He's one of those guys you look at and just go, we can get rid of him. Very much needed. I don't know if that's going to save his job, but he definitely needed that. Run defense specifically, the only real bad grade was Zach Morton, 43.5. I know, I believe he's the one that got the safety, so people are going to be shocked by it, but whatever. His run defense and tackling grades were considered terrible. Obviously, they gave him a really good pass rush grade because he had 3 attempts and got a sack. It happened to be in the end zone. On the positive side of run defense, Tyron Hopper, Benny Sapp, Robert Rochelle, Chris Russell, and Christian Welch, all graded in the 70s. Everybody else kind of in between 50, 60. Tackling grades, the really bad ones, Raylan Goforth in the 40s. And then the putrid grades, Oladapo, 29. Bullard, 26 is real bad to see. I mean, Zach Morton, 25. Kalen King, 25. A lot of really good tackling grades, though. This is really uncharacteristic of any team, but especially, it's like everybody else. There was almost no, 60s. So 69 or higher. Spencer Wagee, Odemegwu, Deslin Alexander, Kingsley Enagbare, Brevin Allen, Brenton Cox, Colby Wooden, Aaron Mosby, Corey Ballantyne, L.J. Davis, Jermon Green, Christian Young, Benny Sapp, Chris Russell, Evan Williams, Robert Rochelle, Eric Wilson, Christian Welch, and Anthony Johnson Jr., all with good tackling grades. Anthony Johnson basically at an 80. Pass rush positive grades, Zach Morton, Jonathan Ford, Aaron Mosby. The only one below a 50 was Spencer Wagee. Coverage grades, some of the negatives, we'll go below a 50 just to save some time. Kalen King with a 44, Goforth 44, Christian Young 43, LJ Davis 28. On the positive side, Ballantyne 70, Benny Sapp 78. Pass rush, Mosby, Morton, Carl Brooks, Brevin Allen, Lucas Van Ness, and Kalen King, all each with a pressure in the game. Of that, let's see, Lucas Van Ness had 12 pressures, so it's under 10%, but you're looking at about a pressure. If you get to 2, it's really high. If it's at 1, it's a little low because there weren't that many attempts. Carl Brooks also had 13 attempts, Aaron Mosby 11, so it's about what you expect. Zach Morton 1 on 3 attempts, Brevin Allen 1 on 4 attempts, Kalen King 1 on 3 attempts. Much more impressive. Then you got Colby Wooden had 2 pressures on 10 attempts. It's obviously very high. Kingsley Enagbare had 3 on 10 attempts, and then Brenton Cox just wrecking stuff. 5 pressures, including a sack, on 17 attempts. That's 1 in 3 almost. That's, we're at 30% for him. That's really, really good. Sacks from Zach Morton, Brenton Cox, and Brevin Allen each. 0 hits in the game. Let's see. Stops, which are tackles that are a negative play for the offense. I'm not going to go through everybody because there was a ton that got at least 1. I love seeing it, by the way. It's really impressive. The tackling and the stops. Don't usually see this quantity. But Colby Wooden had 2, Christian Welch had 3, and Tyron Hopper with 4. Again, our eyes were not deceiving us. He made, not only was he good in run defense, not only was he solid in tackling, he did have 1 missed attempt, which is why he was only at 64.5. But he had 10 tackles, 2 of them being assists. But the fact is, 4 of those 10 tackles were high-impact tackles, big plays. So we weren't wrong to be happy with his performance, I don't think. I think some of the coverage was a little bit lacking, but we'll get there. Forced fumbles, 0. Getting into coverage, the most targeted was Tyron Hopper, targeted 5 times. All 5 were caught for 44 yards, 103.3 coverage grade when targeted. Not spectacular, that's for sure, but also not the most devastating thing. It's kind of interesting because you would have expected that to maybe be a better part of his game because he was described anyways as this pure athlete that's just not a very good linebacker. He's just fast is what he is. He ends up being a really good run defender. Anyways, we'll see. Plenty of time for development there. Next most targeted was L.J. Davis. 5 targets, only 1 caught, but 0 pass breakups. So we must have just been really lucky with none of those getting caught. Kalen King, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 40 yards, and a touchdown. The touchdown probably hurt him quite a bit on the grades and stats and whatnot. Whatever. Plus 40 yards is kind of a lot to give up. Eric Wilson, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 14 yards. Raylan Goforth, 2 targets, 1 reception, but for 0 yards. Javon Bullard, 1 target, 1 reception, 4 yards. Corey Ballantyne, 1 target, 115. Christian Young, 117, and a touchdown given up. Oladapo, 1 target, 0 receptions. Benny Sapp, 1 target, 0 receptions, and a pass breakup. That's what you're hoping to see because then you're the reason that happened. Christian Welch, 1 target, 1 reception, and a pick. Let's go. Robert Rochelle, 1 target, 1 reception, 23 yards. Finally, special teams. Why did I do that? Go back. Special teams. Going to be a lot of guys here. We'll start with the negative first. Doesn't actually look like anything was super horrible. Lowest graded player was Joel Wilson, who had a 56.2. and a lot of positives. If you've been listening for a while, usually, especially for the Packers who don't have good special teams units, generally, there's not hardly anybody up here. Now, it's special teams. I mean, it's preseason, so it probably has an impact, but Mosby with a 70, Brenton Cox 71, Zane Anderson 71, Ellis Merriweather 73, Ben Sims 73, Eric Wilson 74, Grant DeBose 77, Christian Young 72. Of course, we don't need to check the field goals. I will for fun. Greg Joseph 0 for 1 on his 47-yard kick. Kick returns, Emmanuel Wilson was given a 55.8 grade. He had his one kick return for 29 yards. Dimitri Stanley, 54.7. He had a 59.5 grade on kick returns, 3 returns, 71 yards. And then his punt return, he had 1 return with 1 muffed punt. I don't know how this isn't lower, but there you go. Stanley did not really do himself any favors. Anyways, I'm going to leave you guys with that. You have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one.
The lights were bright when our game was in. Against the Broncos, we looked real grim. Missed passes and a fumble or two. Felt like the team was lost.